The Bible says if a man doesn't work, he doesn't eat. AKA, if you ain't grinding, you ain't shining.
Welcome back to another episode of Sell or Fail. We are your hosts,
Samuel Nelson, owner of Massage on the Go and Medical Massages of Memphis.
And Williams Brack, college educated or not, A-type or B, sales is the great equalizer. And today we have Selling Jesus with Pastor Stacy L. Spencer. Pastor Spencer is a senior pastor at New Direction Christian Church in Memphis, Tennessee, a multi-state congregation with church plants in Collierville, Tennessee, Adutwa, South Africa, and, of course, Memphis. Spencer is also an author and chairman of a community development corporation. Now, the topic is selling Jesus. However, what we're really talking about is why one church over another.
Mm-hmm.
Similar to products, why one product over another.
Right.
So why is this topic even important, Sam?
It's a lot because the church has to, just like every other business, learn how to diversify. You see, because of Amazon coming in and swooping up a lot of businesses, a lot of things are closing. So now church is based upon come in, where two or three are gathered in his name, God would be in the midst. Mm-hmm. Now, two or three have to be gathered online. So how do you take a church that's not like Stacy Spencer's, but other churches that's hooping and hollering and singing and getting you all emotional? How do you translate that online and get people to now pay tithes to a place that they're not even going to?
Yeah.
So the church is a business. The Bible also said when Mary met Jesus in the temple, he said, I'm about my Father's business. So you got to keep the doors open. How do you convince people to still pay tithes and offering to a place they're not going?
And then we have the backdrop of a financial recession in 07, 08,
right?
And COVID in this environment as well. How do you keep people engaged? How do you keep tithes coming in? And how do you not only grow your membership, but also retain members?
The funny thing is, how can you push the building fund when there ain't no building? Every church got a building fund, but it ain't no building now. So how you push that?
And so that's the backdrop for our discussion. And so we'll be right back with Pastor Stacy Spencer, senior pastor of New Direction Christian Church. You're listening to Sell or Fail.
And if you ain't selling, you're failing.
And we'll be right back after the break.
Let's get it.
Funky politics.
So we're talking about actual harm against actual people who are still in the marketplace today, who are right here today from these differential salary scales. And guess what? It's happening all the time. I just read a case the other day where there was a differential salary scale, even though it wasn't published the same way it was in the 1950s, where Black women were consistently being underpaid. And you can look at a lot of organizations and see that today. So what I'm saying to you is that we have a problem of historic discrimination, current discrimination on an economic basis that has never been rectified.
Hey, I'm DC. Have you heard our latest shows? Get updates on our most recent shows by downloading the Kudzukian app in the App Store or Google Play.
Check out all your Kudzukian favorites now. Download the Kudzukian app, available on Android and iOS.
We're back with Sell or Fail with Dr., author, motivating speaker, our pastor, Stacy Spencer. Stacy, thank you for having us out.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for letting me be out on the show with you. And it's a privilege and honor to share the space with you today.
Man, thank you so much. And we'll just dive right into it. During the coronavirus, we have seen a lot of companies close. We have seen a lot of churches close. So what is your church doing to keep people engaged and in tune and have your church in the suffering during this time because of the coronavirus?
Most definitely, this has been a shock to the body of Christ. This pandemic has created a new normal, a VUCA environment, volatile, uncertain, chaotic, and ambiguous. And so we've had to adjust for sure, but the church in history has always thrived in crisis. This is an opportunity for the church to be the church. The church is not a building, it is people. And so we've made some adjustments by continuing to do work. You said a key word, Sam. You said, how do we engage? The old model of doing church was to try to get people to attend.
Right.
Now the church has to be in the business of engaging its people, engaging not only our members, but the community. And this is a perfect opportunity now that we're out of the salt shaker and out of the box, that we can actually be the catalyst that the church should have been all along. So it has really pushed us into a realm where we're more productive than we were before COVID.
And we're seeing that in banking as well. We're remote, but we're doing a lot of work, and we're seeing productivity increase in a lot of different areas, and a lot of people didn't expect that. So Pastor Spencer, when you think about the topic of quote unquote selling Jesus, what comes to mind for you?
I'm thinking, ain't no way in the world I could ever sell Jesus.
And that's the correct answer, actually.
You can't and you shouldn't sell Jesus. Some people are in ministry for sure for personal gain. You know, it says in Philippians 1:15-18, it says, it is true that some preach Christ out of envy and rivalry, but others out of goodwill. I think that when we preach out of goodwill, when Jesus said, the Spirit of the Lord is on me to preach good news to the poor, to heal the brokenhearted, to set the captives free. He had a liberation agenda. He had an agenda for the people. He did not come seeking profit. He was prophetic, but he wasn't seeking a profit, a profit. And many false prophets are simply out to make a profit at people's expense. But I do believe that when you meet the needs of people and you help people's lives to change, that is where people are appreciative and people give out of generosity because of the work that they're seeing, the evidence of God being in a place. Apple is in the business of selling iPhones, iPads, watches. Coca-Cola sells Coke. Nike sells athletic wear. What does the church sell? The church doesn't sell Jesus, but it does. Its product is transformation. And if people do not see transformation in the church, they're not going to want to invest in something that ain't changing nothing.
That's true. That's true. So the Bible says the Great Commission, when he said go into the world 2 by 2. So are y'all sending people out into the world to go do, as we call guerrilla marketing, right into the community? And what are y'all doing in the community?
You know, when I first started New Direction back in 2001, at the age of 33 in Hickory Hill, we didn't have a lot of money. What we did was we walked into the communities, we knocked on doors, and we asked the community, based upon Rick Warren's purpose-driven book, we asked the community, what do you think your community needs? What are the needs in this community? What would you like to see the church do to help change some of the situations in your community? And so we began to ask and survey the people what they needed. We didn't want to scratch people where they weren't itching. Ministry is nothing more than finding a need and meeting it. And so one of the things we did was we went out and surveyed what I guess you guys would call in the market world, your business community. You did we did a demographic study of who it was that we were trying to reach, and we set our target. And so, yeah, we believe in the 2 by 2 concept. I had a campaign called 2 by 2 where we send people out, not only canvassing, but out in the marketplace, you know, inviting their friends and their family, and the people in their core-centric circles. So we believe in relationship evangelism, that people influence the people that they're in relationship with and invite them to come and experience the transformation at New Direction.
You know, that's interesting, because if we take the sales process, the first thing you need to do is discovery. Like, who are you? What do you want? What's your problem? And how can we help? Then you do a needs analysis of the services and offerings that you have. And then you solve the problem of the people. Whether it's transformation, whether it's salvation, like the sales process is consistent across any industry, is what I heard you say, Pastor Spencer. And so the sell to fail nation is seeing how everybody is in the business of sales, regardless of what your product is.
Right.
And so, Dr. Spencer, what sets yourself and New Direction Church apart from, let's call it, other churches? Because if the message is salvation, transformation, there's thousands, literally hundreds of thousands of institutions that's providing the same service. So how do you separate yourself from the pack?
Actually, there are a handful, I think, that would ideally qualify for transformation. Somebody once said, if your church doors were closed tomorrow, would the community miss you?
Mm.
And if there are a lot of churches who are not engaged with their community.
A lot.
We adopted Windridge Elementary. We helped to shut down a nightclub that was backed by drug dealers back in the day. We bought 43 acres of land, the old Marina Cove, tore down eyesore apartments, built up a middle school, performing arts center. We have been in the business of transforming our neighborhood. That's different from religious entertainment.
Mm.
What we set out to do years ago was not to be another church. Memphis doesn't need another church. There are 3,000 churches in Memphis, over 3,000 churches, more churches than liquor stores and barbecue shacks combined. But what the Lord needed was a place where people could be transformed. Ironically enough, I purchased the old service merchandise building to put our church in, because the Lord told me, he said, I don't want you serving merchandise. This is not for profit. I want you to serve people. This is a nonprofit. And when you take care of the poor, I'll take care of you. And so God has proved, I got 39% poverty in Hickory Hill, 12% unemployment. We are feverishly working to try to tackle that unemployment rate by partnering with FedEx, creating workforce development. And so we are doing things that help the poor, knowing that if we empower poor people and help them to make living wages, those are the people who are going to come back out of gratitude and say, this is the place to help me, and I want to sow back into that. So that's kind of the model for me is are we making a difference in people and in the community? Change people, change communities.
So what I'm hearing is your strong selling point for the church is not only the multiple location is the convenience of the message, but also showing the consumer where their money or time is going, by showing that what we're doing is not just to get you in to make you feel good. After we do all that, we're going to show you how to minister by ministering and having other ministries that people can join to help them out in life as well. Amen.
Yeah, man, when you're driving down the street and you see a sign on the side of the road and they're working on the pavement, they're putting some asphalt down on all those potholes that be tearing up our cars in Memphis. Mm-hmm. And you see the signs on the side of the road says what? Your taxes at work.
Right.
When people can see their taxes at work, it makes them a little bit more comfortable knowing that progress is being made. When people drive up and down Winchester and they can see the transformation that we made in our community, that makes them more comfortable to say, this is good ground. I want to sow in good ground, knowing that what they're putting in comes out as a direct reflection. There's a return on their investment. I see young people being saved. I see marriages being mended. I see businesses going up. I see a school that has a waiting list now. Yeah, I want to sow here. So as long as we keep doing the work, if we do what God called us to do, God's promise is that he takes care. He puts it on the heart of people to sow. I don't believe in all that old stuff about $5,000 line, $1,000 line. I just believe that whatever God has put on a person's heart to give as a result of the grace they've experienced, the transformation they experienced, I believe in that. And when people do so and do tithe, God does something with their gift, their commitment that I could never do.
And so those are reasons that people would join, right? They find New Direction and they're attracted to that. Mm-hmm. But some people are visitors.
Church hoppers,
right? They go from church to church to church to church. And so how do you convert visitors into new members is what we're curious about. Once they say, hey, New Direction is great. We've heard about them. We've heard about the work. We've seen the work. So now we want to visit. How do you convert them? What message do you have to convert them to members from just visitors?
We're living in an age, before this COVID-19 hit, we were living in an age of a very consumeristic church base, especially in the South. you'd be hard pressed to find anybody in the South that has not gone to somebody's church. And we are notorious for church hopping. And so you have to know that going in that we're a church for anybody, but not a church for everybody. So we have to be distinct about our DNA and who it is that God called New Direction to be. Back in the day, people used to say we're the club church because we had so many young people. We were casually dressed. We incorporated contemporary music into our worship, and we got that stigma as being the club church. After a while, I stopped fighting against it. I was kind of like Tupac. He said, you know what? In Juice, when he said, when you first said it about me, I was tripping, right? But now that I've embraced being out of the box. Because they're a group. Jesus, when he got lambasted by the religious people for hanging out with tax collectors and sinners, they said, why does your teacher hang with such scum? And Jesus said, I didn't come for those who are well. I came for those who are sick. So New Direction identified early on that we came for a contingent of the population that would never darken the door frames of the average church because they would be judged, looked down upon. But we opened up our doors to a particular segment of the population that we said, hey, come as you are, because it's not about your clothes. It's about what's in you, not what's on you.
Now, that's actually a really good segue into our next segment of how you attract that 18 to 35 demographic to the church. Now, when you were 33, they saw you in themselves, but now you're 52. And so when we get back after the break, we're going to talk about how you continue to bring millennials and Gen Zs, how do you continue to attract them to the church? You're listening to Sell or Fail.
And if you ain't selling, you failing.
And we'll be right back after the break.
Let's get this money.
Welcome back to Grind Set. We're here with Austin Baker, president of HRO Partners. We talked about what HRO Partners is and how well you're doing now and your ability to even spin off to another national company. But talk to us about the first 12 months of HRO Partners.
It's almost like when you have a toddler, you kind of forget those days sometimes. And then you go and start a new company like I did last year. I'm like, oh yeah, that'll be easy. No, it's not.
Right.
I think that everyone that gets into entrepreneurship that's expecting it to provide them more freedom and more time should expect that they're going to have to invest twice as much.
Kudzukian. Check out all your Kudzukian favorites now. Download the Kudzukian app, available on Android and iOS.
Welcome back to Sell or Fail. We're here with Pastor Stacy L. Spencer, senior pastor of New Direction Christian Church. He's an author. He runs the CDC, schools, our local area, Memphis Interfaith Association. But you're a pastor first, and a man of God, and you started at 33. And at 33, it was easier with quotes, attract a congregation that looked like you. But at 52, how are you able to continue to attract that 18 to 35 crowd, which has been so elusive to a lot of churches?
Man, do you see this baby face?
They call him Slick Rick.
I'm like Nas. I look like I'm 25. No, just
some people age like wine. Some people age like milk, baby. I see you.
So man, outside of my boyish good looks, there is this tendency that you draw who you are. You draw your age demographic. So as we've aged, so has my congregation. But surprisingly, I've also gotten a lot of millennials to come about. And so I think that what millennials are drawn to are two things: authenticity and a cause. And so they're not looking for somebody that dresses like them and tries to, speak their lingo. They're looking for somebody who's real. Yep. And so they're longing for an authentic experience with God. They have questions about their faith. They want to be in a safe space where they can come and ask questions. We try to provide a safe space where young people can come in and ask questions. Secondly, the cause. We're fighting. You mentioned that I am president of Memphis Interfaith Coalition for Action and Hope. We're fighting for equity in Memphis. And so the social justice is very much in the bloodstream of our church. So our young people are involved in voter registration. We fed over 30,000 families this summer in partnership with the Mid-South Food Bank. There were millennials out there slinging boxes and putting food in people's trunks. So they get excited about, authenticity, people who are real about their faith, real human beings, transparent, non-judgmental. So we create an atmosphere and a culture where young people feel safe.
Oh, so by doing that, do you all have a strategic plan for social media, since everybody from 18 to 35 and probably to 90,000 now are on social media in some form? What is your church social media strategy? Be it LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, or what do you use or your church use?
Well, the platforms we're currently using are YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. We have an app, our own church app, New Direction Christian Church, which is available on Android and Apple. I'm doing podcasts. We have a website.
Shout out to podcast. What's your podcast now?
Inside Out, man, y'all got to check it out. Inside Out just did a series on this difficult discussions about race. So I talked to some white brothers and sisters who are of the Christian faith, because a lot of the white evangelicals have been silent on racism. So we had some very good discussion around that. But all of those platforms, man, we're using social media to reach people because, we're connected to our phones. They're connected on our hips. And so we realized that if we're going to reach our people, we got to engage them through technology. A lot of people, when COVID hit, a lot of churches panicked because they're like, oh my God, we're not streaming. I even heard pastors tell me this, man, I ain't streaming my services. Them folks will be staying home watching me on TV. And now, as a result of us not being able to go in the building, a lot of them had to make a mad scramble to embrace technology. But you don't have to get ready if you stay ready. So we pioneered using technology, over a decade ago. We were one of the first churches, Black churches, to have our own app on the iPhone. So we try to stay ahead of the curve, notice the trends, and utilize technology to spread the gospel.
So does that mean we have Pastor Spencer on the internet? I use my phone to look this up. Are you out there doing the Harlem Shake Challenge and ice bucket challenges and all these different things to attract millennials? Is that part of your social media?
TikTok page, Pastor?
I do not have a TikTok page. My son, who's a senior in high school, would not allow me to do that and embarrass him or God. So I know what lane to stay in. But we have done a little family dance or whatever. My wife and I did the what's that Drake song? They did
the Kiki song.
The Kiki song.
I knew you had to do one. You can't be on social media and not do one challenge.
We did that one, man. We got 1 million views. And so but after my son saw me, he's like, don't do that anymore, Daddy. Please don't do that.
So on Sell or Fail, like, you can always be in prosperous times. And so we have two examples, one being 07, 08. And there was a financial impact to your congregation, which means a financial impact to the church. During COVID, there's a financial impact to the congregation, in addition to some of the logistical challenge. What is your message during these times? Clearly, you made it through 07, 08, but what is your messaging to keep people engaged, like you say?
Right.
I'm glad that's a great question. I'm glad you asked it, because I want to paint this picture that, we don't struggle. We all struggle. Before COVID hit, man, I was like staring at a deficit, like, oh my God, giving is down. What are we going to do? And I went through some soul searching after 19 years of ministry. What happens in a church cycle, in businesses, they have peaks and they have plateaus. Mm-hmm. In church, the average church plateaus after 12 years. Mm. You go from planting to building to peak, and then plateau, and then life support and death. And so if you don't interrupt that growth cycle, you will eventually die. Mm-hmm. And so before COVID even hit, man, I was wrestling with, Lord, how do we break out of this plateau? Because there's a book that says what got you here won't keep you here. And so I realized that we had to reinvent ourselves to a certain degree. And one of my mentors, Samuel Chan, who is a church consultant, he says, sometimes your church is like a bottle of Coke that's been left open. He says it gets flat. And he says, what you got to do is put the top on it, shake it up to get the fizz back. And so we had to shake up. We had to restructure. We had to let go of some staff, hire some new staff. We had to relook our strategy for how we were going to engage our community through experiencing God, empowering them through discipleship, and engaging in missions. We streamlined our approach and our strategy, and we shook some things up. And as a result of that, things started to move again. We started gaining traction. But to be real with you, what really shook us up was this COVID-19. That thing right there sent all of us scrambling, but it was a good scramble because it allowed us to return to our roots and reaching unchurched people, reaching unreached people, getting out in the community, servicing the people directly. And it purified our motives. It purified our strategy. And as a result of that, the gospel's still going forward. People are still engaged. And so I would say to anybody that to study the life cycle, whatever business you're in, to read, to notice the trends, and know that what got you to your point of success, you can't keep riding that same horse and expecting to evolve in your business. You'll flatten out and you eventually die if you don't change.
So if you, let's say if you bump into me and during this coronavirus, everybody's down, we have mental health at its highest. What is your elevator speech to get me to come to New Direction? How do you convince me to come to your church and listen to you or tune in?
I'm going to tell you this. When life is not working for you, that's when the gospel does its best work. That's when Jesus does his best work. When you're down to nothing, God is up to something. And the only way you're going to be able to get through this is by the help of God. And what better place to come than to the house of God, even if it's virtually. And if you're in need of some counseling, I know this stress is overwhelming. We as Black people carry a lot of stress in our body because of the 400 years of oppression that we've gone through. And to see ourselves constantly attacked on media, it does something to our psyche. So we got some free counseling for you. I would love for you to come to our counseling center and get some free counseling so somebody can encourage you, because I want you to know you're not by yourself. And there's some people at New Direction who are praying for you and pulling for you. As a matter of fact, I'll get somebody to call and pray with you this week to make sure you're straight. So that's what we offer at New Direction, is a way out of your distress, to know that God is still in the healing business.
I like that. So Seller Fair audience, if you heard him, he gave you a sales pitch, or we call elevator pitch. And then he followed up, had his assistants follow up to make sure that you're coming. So after he did the pitch, he came back with a warm call, and then he closed the deal for Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. All
right. Let me tell y'all something. Don't y'all go out there selling Pastor Spencer selling Jesus. I ain't selling no Jesus.
No, you ain't selling Jesus. You ain't selling Jesus.
No. We clarified that at the very top.
At the
very beginning, right. We clarified that, and we won't play any clips to make it seem like you're selling Jesus. You're selling transformation.
Transformation. We all need transformation. I need like transform about 100 pounds. Give me about 6 packs.
So our conversation is making a running thing. A lot of things run through my brain. So now you're talking. You brought up mental health. There was social justice. There's community development. How do you stay focused on a singular mission instead of spreading yourself too thin in all these directions, trying to be everything to everybody as a church?
So that's a very good question. I've had to say no to a lot of things. There's a book called The Essentialist, where you say no to good so you can do what's great. And I had to come off a lot of boards that I was serving on because I felt myself being spread too thin. New Direction is my first responsibility. My family is my first responsibility. Then my church family. God called me to be a pastor of New Direction Christian Church. Secondly, an extension of New Direction is transformation, community transformation. That's why we started a separate 501c3 Power Center Community Development Corporation. And that's where we bought Eden Square, and we're developing that. Thirdly, there is this 2-year term I'm serving as president for MICA, Memphis Interfaith Coalition for Action and Hope. But there are 63 organizations, churches, synagogues, mosques, labor unions that are also part of MICA. So it's not a heavy lift when you got a bunch of partners helping you lift. So those are 3 things, 3 essential things. And I told you earlier, there's 3 essential things we do at our church. That's help people experience God, empower them through discipleship, and help them to engage in missions. And so my 3 essential things as a leader, my bandwidth covers those 3 things: pastoring the church, hitting up a CDC, and leading for 2 years in this social justice organization. So everything else I have to say no to. There's a lot of people who say, can you do this? Can you do that? Nope. My plate is full. This is all I can do effectively. As a matter of fact, I want to hear God say one day, well done, Stacy. You've been faithful over a few things. Now come on up. I'll make you rule over many. So I'm trying to make sure I focus on a few things and not get caught up in a whole bunch of things.
Right. Thank you, Pastor. Cellophane family, please stay tuned. We're going to have another episode coming shortly. We're going to close out with a benediction. Amen.
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 You're listening to Cellophane,
And if you ain't selling,
you felon.
Let's get it.
We'll be right back after the break.
All right.
Hey, I'm Howard Robertson of R&R on Sports. Have you heard our latest show?
Back with us on R&R on Sports, NBA champion, Brother David West. Welcome back to R&R on Sports. Our good friend, Brother Robert Scoop Jackson. Welcome back to R&R on Sports. My brother, the Grind City Media senior editor. Mike, welcome to R&R on Sports.
Hey, thanks a lot for having me, man, and I hope you guys are safe.
Get the updates by downloading the Kudzukian app in the App Store or on Google Play.
Kudzukian.
Welcome back to Cellophane. Again, we're here with Pastor Stacy L. Spencer, senior pastor of New Direction Christian Church here in Memphis, Tennessee. What we know in sales is that the best must continue to get better. And so far, you've done a good job of mentioning at least a couple of books. One is What Got You Here Won't Get You There. Well, yeah, What Got You There Won't Keep You There. And The Potentialist. And you also mentioned Samuel Chan as a mentor. Who are your other mentors, dead or alive, and other books that you read to continue to sharpen the tool on a consistent basis?
Man, so many to mention. I'll try to run through them real fast. First of all, my pastor who helped me, was instrumental in me accepting my call into ministry, Reverend Quentin Yates at Cedar Grove Baptist Church when I was a college student. Reverend Chris Battle, who suggested I go to Southern Baptist Theological Seminary to get my master's. Dr. Kevin Cosby was the person that gave me my first big break to work at a mega church. He had the largest Black Baptist church in Kentucky, called me to be his youth pastor, and that set the stage for my understanding of how to do ministry on a mega scale. And not only that, but based in liberation theology and community development. And then after that, Dr. Alvin O'Neill Jackson called me to Memphis to be his youth pastor, Mississippi Boulevard. And then after he left in 2 years, Frank Thomas came after him, Dr. Frank Thomas, who said, hey, are you interested in starting a church? And so all of those men of God played a crucial role in my development as a pastor, as a leader, as a community developer. Books, there's a book called The Purpose-Driven Church book by Rick Warren is a must-have for anybody who's in ministry. The Essentialist is a book I just read about narrowing down what's important for you in order to be effective. You can't be effective doing a whole bunch, but you can be effective doing what you've been called to do. There's another book called How to Get Your Church Unstuck. A lot of people may find that their church is in a rut. They've been doing the same thing for so many years. They just don't know how to get out. This book will help their church get unstuck. Man, there's a book by Sean King out now called Make Change. It's a book about social justice and how we make change and finding out what our cause is and putting our energies into making change, because we're not going to be able to change anything if we don't get involved with it, you know. And so those are just a few books I would mention, and there's a whole host of people. You know, I thank God for my wife, my mom, my dad. That extended family was real key for me, but also those mentors that I met along the way that helped shape me.
All right, thank you so much. Before we leave, we wanted to know, could you say a little prayer for us?
Man, I'd love
the audience.
I'd love to. Let us pray. Father, I thank you right now for the capacity and the ability to be able to have a gift, of an ability, a product that other people would find beneficial, that not only God gives us the ability to make a living and provision for our families, but hopefully what we sell makes people better. And I pray, Father, for each and every brother and sister who are trying to launch their own business, who are trying to launch an enterprise to take care of their family. I'm praying for creativity, for strategy, for wise counsel, for them to launch out at the right time for the right reason and for the right thing. And I pray, Father, that their gifts would make room for them and bring them into the presence of great men and women. And when they get to the table, they'd be able to be certain of what you have put in them, that they write the vision, make it plain so that they can be successful. God bless each and every person listening. And I pray that they wouldn't fail, but they would excel even as they sail. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much, Pastor, for coming on.
Yes, sir.
Selling fair audience. I hope you learned a lot. In every aspect of your life, you got to sell. Faith come by hearing and hearing the word of God. Secondly, faith come by hope and hoping in things that you haven't seen. But the last part of faith, James tells us we got to hop out on it. So when you finna hop out there and sell, make sure you have the faith in what your product, faith in yourself, and go sell.
Amen.
Amen. Thanks again, Pastor, for coming on.
Yes, sir. Thank y'all.
All right.
And we'll be right back after the break.
Funky politics.
So we're talking about actual harm against actual people who are still in the marketplace today, who are right here today from these differential salary scales. And guess what? It's happening all the time. I just read a case the other day where there was a differential salary scale, even though it wasn't published the same way it was in the 1950s, where black women were consistently being underpaid. And you can look at a lot of organizations and see that today. So what I'm saying to you is that we have a problem of historic discrimination, current discrimination on an economic basis that has never been rectified.
Hey, I'm DC. Have you heard our latest shows? Get updates on our most recent shows by downloading the Kudzukian app in the App Store or Google Play.
Check out all your Kudzukian favorites now. Download the Kudzukian app, available on Android and iOS.
There was a great interview with Pastor Spencer. Hopefully our audience learned a lot. Every aspect of your life, you got to sell. You got to sell. You got to sell.
And so after Pastor Spencer, we're going to have Justin Greene, author of Get to the Green Sales. Now, a lot of us, if you're in sale and if you're doing well, you've thought about writing a book.
Yes, we all have.
I mean, you have. And so what I appreciate are people who can close the gap between thinking and doing. And during COVID, Justin was able to write his book and get it published. And now he's selling them.
In 4 months.
In 4 months.
I've been trying to write a book for the last 20 years of my life. I got notes everywhere. I ain't wrote out one word.
So stay tuned, stay with us, and we'll be right back with Justin Greene, author of Getting to Green Sales.
We are on Sell or Fail. If you ain't selling,
you failing.
Let's get this money.
Kudzukian.
So we're talking about actual harm against actual people.
Episode. Come up with a more surprising thing.
Yeah, you just have to take baby steps, taking baby steps, talk about escapism. I'm like, yo, I'm tired.
Hello.
Hello. It is a privilege and an honor to join you for this special ceremony.
I can't tell you how privileged I am to be a part of the most critical conversation of 2020.
Sickle cell disease from childhood up. So thank you for joining us.
Check out all your Kudzukian favorites now. Download the Kudzukian app, available on Android and iOS.
Welcome back to Sell or Fail.
If you ain't selling, you failing.
As promised, we're here with author Justin Greene, author of Get to the Green Sales. So first of all, congratulations on completing your first book.
Yeah, man, I'm proud of you.
Appreciate it.
And I think that, as we mentioned in the intro, and at the beginning, at some point, if you're a successful salesperson, if you've done well in sales, you've thought about writing a book. All of the books you read, all the things that you motivate, and then you combine that with your experiences, you sit back sometimes, it's like, man, I got something to say. And so you actually completed a book, and sales is all about closing, and you closed on your first book. So before we get to the green sales, tell us first what attracted you to the sales profession.
Okay. Well, what first attracted me to it, I would say, my last year in college, I took a class, salesmanship, and it was really just one of the things, it had certain requirements that you got to meet before graduating. I took the class. I wasn't really interested in it first, but then for that final project, it turned out to be something like my teacher, Fred Landis. I actually mentioned him in the book. He kind of pointed me. He said, man, this is something you really could have a knack for, but I still didn't kind of think a lot of it. But once I graduated and started applying for jobs in marketing, everyone said that you had to have at least 1 to 3 years of sales experience. And then that's something that my dad has always done too. He's been in sales for probably 20, almost 30 years now. So once I got a little bit of a taste of it right after college, I jumped into car sales. Once I started seeing that I really get paid for my worth and how much I work, once I got that bug, it was over with. So that 1 to 3 years that I was looking for turned to almost 12 years now.
Wow.
So when you was in car sales, what was that atmosphere, and how did you get the people? Was you a lot lizard, or what did you do?
I was definitely the lot lizard because.
Now, hold up. Now, tell us what a lot lizard is, and then then answer the question.
Okay. My bad. Let me back up then. The lot lizard. If you ever been to a car lot, that guy that you see that's out there always on the lot, he's walking through the cars or might be looking at the windows and stuff like that. But he has on, say, a Jim Carrey shirt or Chuck Hutton. That's the lot lizard, because then it's also the ones that you don't see out there. Like as soon as you pull up and stop your car, they almost can open your door for you. I was somewhere close by. I was super aggressive, but yeah, I was definitely that lot lizard coming out of college, because I was the youngest at the car lot. Everybody else had full families and everything. I was just trying to get my 1 to 3 years in. So I'm talking and meet everybody I can possible and try and beat them to it. But yeah, that was definitely that was the atmosphere there. Like I was legit a boy amongst men.
Yeah. So were you 100% commission doing car sales?
Initially, I wasn't, because I worked at a lot that had a different kind of commission structure that I've ever seen. They gave you half and half to start off for first 3 months, and then they push you to 100% commission. So to start off, no, but I transitioned into that, and that's when you really start seeing if you gonna sink or swim.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about that. What did you learn about yourself working 100% commission? There's no floor, but the upside could be pretty good. So what did you learn about yourself?
Man, that's when I really learned that self-starter. I've always heard folks say that I'm self-motivated, self-starter. Then you hear it more as you get older, but I learned then at an early age, at 22, that, okay, I'm truly a self-starter, because I know when I come into each day, I know, look, if I don't sell this, I ain't gonna be able to pay my rent at the end of the month, or this phone bill are gonna get cut off. And that's one big thing. Even it wasn't as big then in 09, 10, 11, but it's huge now. You can't even do nothing without your cell phone. So if I ain't make nothing, I gotta make enough money to keep this phone bill on. So it gave me that. I learned that I can plan and strategize when I need to, and that I can go get it whenever I need to also.
So you got a person on the lot. And what's the next steps? How do you pick out that client, or do you run them in and bring them in and run a credit first, or how do you go about that?
Right, because when they show up, they're already motivated buyers. So,
right.
So you basically, am I thinking about this right? Is that you have to lose the sale and not to close somebody? Is that proper since they're already motivated?
Nah, you somewhere in the middle, because just like Sam, you brought up a lot lizard. You ever heard of the tire kickers? The ones that
I ain't heard of them.
Yeah, it's a whole lot of tire kickers that might come to the car lot also. So you got to weed through them. The best thing that I learned too, you got to learn to lose fast. So I would always try and get you in there and sit down as fast as possible, because on the lot you could be motivated to buy and can't buy. I'd rather find out if you actually can buy before I spend 20, 30, 40 minutes with you and it's all for nothing, because no matter how bad you want this Escalade, you can't buy nothing but a Honda. And we done both waste each other time. And my time, I've always felt like my time is more valuable than your time, because I'm here to work. You just kind of here.
What's the question, right? To get them from the car lot just browsing to doing the credit application to see if they're qualified.
I mean, in that business, I'm not gonna lie to you. That's one of probably the most straightforward bit. You got to be the most straightforward in the bit. Mr. Brack, okay, I understand that you want this car. Let's go ahead and see. Let's go inside, sit down, see what you can actually qualify for. So we can point you in the right direction. See what put all the best of bells and whistles together for you. Like, yeah, my biggest thing was like I was out to try my best to be personable and respectful, but we got to get you inside. Like, come on, let's see what we actually can get you, and we go from there.
Okay, so that person that walks into to the car lot, they know that they want something, but how do you generate those leads if there's nobody coming in? If it's a cold day like a Monday, ain't nobody really just riding around on Monday looking for cars and it's cold. So do y'all do cold calls, or do y'all do email blasts, or what do you do?
Well, we used to do some cold calling and then we reached out via previous customers and things like that. Now, me coming in fresh, it was a little difficult for me, because of course I didn't have any previous customers starting out. But car business does have a fairly high turnover as well. I don't know if it does still now, but it definitely had one. So one of the things that we would do, we still had just a list of frequent buyers from the dealership period that we could reach out to. Hey, Mr. Nelson, are you still happy with your Toyota Corolla? Okay, great. Do you happen to know anybody that might be in a market for a vehicle? If you do you mind if I reach out to them, or you can forward my information to them?
So I'm glad you mentioned turnover, right? Because you didn't stay in car sales, you transitioned to another organization. So talk about what you transitioned to, and how that sales environment was different.
Okay.
Because you went to Verizon. Selling cell phones, internet, TV, cable.
Right. So it was a small gap between there. I transitioned, and first I tried to get out. I tried to push my luck as far as getting to the sales management part early. Like, I was 25. I was like, man, let me go manage some people. I think I can do this. That bug lasted for a little while when I realized that I didn't completely control my commission anymore, because I went over to like a customer service sales management type of deal, which was a lot different. And then that's when I transitioned back to the Verizon sales, because that was like, man, look, I need to get back to where I'm in front of people. I'm not trying to middleman everything. So that transition went from like the customer service side, which is, of course, it's still a very important part of sales. I'm not pushing that to the side, people. But like, I really enjoy like that getting out there and actually being front line with you. So the transition went from from the car sales, customer service manager, then went back to frontline sales with Verizon. And most recently I was a small business manager at Verizon. Yeah.
So when you get the people in the door at Verizon, what's their sales strategy? Because they coming in to buy a phone. So you're trying to lateral sell, upsell. What type of sale are you trying to do for them?
That's a great question. So what we call it is pull through sales.
Pull through sales.
Pull through sales. So you definitely coming in to get a phone. You coming in to upgrade to the newest iPhone. But I got to pull you through to get you interested in this iPad that we got, or this Apple Watch.
You got to pull me to buy that $1,000 iPhone, though. I don't want to buy that either.
Hey, but for the most part, you're already coming in wanting some. Right. I got to get my job is to get you interested in those other items that you may not know that we offer, and a lot of it comes down to just having a conversation with people, because you can start having. If I start talking to you about what you do with your phone and what type of music do you like, this and that, I can go ahead and show you, like, hey, to free up your phone, you can use your iPad to do this, or do you work from home or anything? Everybody works from home right now. How are you using your laptop? And said, well, I usually hotspot off my phone. Well, using your phone as a hotspot is like using your car as a rental car. You wearing your battery down and putting more wear and tear on it. I can give you this jetpack, and then you ain't got to worry about it. If a call comes through, your phone is still ringing, your internet's still working. Jetpack, okay, better word for a mobile hotspot. Okay,
I'll take that.
Yeah, I was like a jetpack.
Part of my experience is I used to sell phones at AT&T as well before I got into banking. And it's basically a closing and cross-selling clinic, right? I mean, if you want to practice different closing techniques, you got motivated people coming in. All you got to do is not mess it up. But I think we've done a good job in this segment of establishing some of your experience in sales, right? And so we're going to get into your process of actually writing the book and some of the things that you have in the books to help us get motivated and hit it and grind and sell so that we don't have to fail. So after the break, we're going to get to the Greene sales. You're listening to Sell or Fail.
And if you ain't selling, you failing.
And we'll be right back after the break.
Let's get this money.
Greetings and salutations, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, one and all, to the little show that we like to call Black Nerd Power, BNP if you're nasty. I'm your host, Mr. Richard Douglas Jones, and with me, the co-hosts of Black Nerd Power, Mr. Marcus Seaberry.
What's up, my nerd?
All nerd, please. And Ms. Kimber. What's happening, man?
Hi.
All right, first, here is the rage figure.
I love his helmet.
Talking about escapism and like, yo, I'm mad, but I'm tired. Like, is it okay that, like, if instead of going out to protest tonight, I want to sit and watch a movie? And I'm just like, hell yeah, it's fine.
A quote unquote woke romance that features a character that's not being like objectified for her body, that does not necessarily mean that book will not have sex in it.
And I think on that note, we're going to end the show.
Kudzukian. Download the Kudzukian app, available on Android and iOS.
Welcome back to Sell or Fail. If you ain't selling, you failing. We here with Justin Greene. Get to the Greene, world-renowned author, number one best book sold in Memphis. How you doing, brother?
How you doing? Pretty well, man.
All right, brother. You know,
I like how you doing that, man. Speaking into existence for me.
You know. And you said you was working for the cell phone company. And tell us the experience of landing that big client. What did you have to do?
Okay. Well, one of the larger deals that I closed was with Bob Lads here in Memphis. They're probably the largest distributor of golf carts in, I know, the South, possibly the country, but definitely in the South.
You still got his number because I need a discount.
I got you. I got his number. I can shoot it over to you.
I got my own batteries.
Yeah. So how I ended up in contact with him, one of the area managers just kind of dropped in the store one day. He just came in to pick up a charger. And after just having a conversation with him, he was telling me that they currently used AT&T and that they were how spread out they were. And some of the people that weren't in like a metropolitan area didn't have the best service. So I asked him who would be the point of contact there if I want to kind of talk with them about switching service over. So he put me in contact with, they end up being their vice president. So after I called him a few times, couldn't really get him on the phone or get him to stay on the phone, sent him emails whenever we had these great promotions. That lasted for about a year, and I never did make any traction with him. So I just said, you know what? Their location is only about 5 minutes from the store. So I just pulled up on him. So
pulled up on him and did what?
I pulled up to his location to ask for him.
Guerrilla marketing, huh?
Yeah.
You gotta go beat down that door sometime.
Hey, it's a lot harder to tell me no face to face than it is.
Right. Now hold up, Sam. You just jumped in and said guerrilla marketing. Can we get a refresher on what guerrilla marketing is?
Sell a fair audience. Guerrilla marketing is when you tired of cold calls like I am, and you figure out what they and I use it as this as well too. I learn the habits of my clients. So if I know he smokes cigars, I end up at a cigar bar and buy him a cigar. That's part of guerrilla marketing too. So you got to go to the water hose and beat down that wall to make sure that you can get in front of that person. Like Mr. Greene, like Justin just said, it's way harder to tell me no when I'm sitting there passing you a glass of cognac. Like, how your day been?
Yeah.
And that's how you do it. You got to go down there to them.
So beating down the doors and meeting the customers where they are, right?
Meeting them where they are. All them emails, they ain't gonna reply.
Hey.
Them phone calls, they ain't gonna reply. You text them, they ain't gonna reply. You learn where he like to go eat it, and you pull up beside him, like, we buy you a dinner, and we can talk right quick.
Hey, yes. Hey, I like that though. I like that.
When is gonna win, Justin?
You got to.
Hey, you gotta find them habits.
Right. So look. So we're talking about a golf cart company. How many employees? Like, how large was it? And once you got into the vice president, who was the decision maker. So first of all, was he the only decision maker? And then, I mean, what was the conversation like when he finally let you in?
Okay, so once I finally got in his face and he put a face with a name, it was crazy for him to have been kind of giving me a cold shoulder, so to say, for a year. Once I told him who I was, yeah, my name is Justin with Verizon. I mean, yeah, you've been emailing me for a while.
So he saw guerrilla. Yeah. I'm telling you.
He said, man, what? He said, man, I appreciate that persistence, man. Like, man, I haven't met a salesperson like this before.
Right.
I was like, man, honestly, like, I want to see if we can win your business. Like, I know you got AT&T right now. What can we do? He went and printed off a bill and told me, man, if you can beat what I'm paying with them, we can do business with you. Now, to answer your other question, he was not the only decision maker. He just happened to be the one that write the checks. The decision maker ended up being, like in those large companies, especially with cell phones, decision maker is usually the IT person or some type of dispatch or something like that who actually deals with the people that have the phones. So one of the other main decision makers was the IT director.
Wow. So did you ask him that, or did you just so happen to find out that he wasn't the sole decision maker? Because one of the things when you're new in sales that happens is you get so excited that you're finally talking to somebody that you forget that it's other people that are in there making decisions, and that can derail the whole process if you're not aware of it.
Oh yeah, it was actually that was definitely a learned tactic to not just go with the owner immediately, because especially if it's a larger company. Now of course the smaller companies, like the owner is usually the accountant, the marketer, the everything of the company. But when you get to those larger companies, the owner just happens to be the owner, but they don't necessarily do the finance or the IT work and stuff like this. So especially with technology, you want to kind of delegate a lot of stuff out. So yeah, it took me a bit to learn that there's not always one decision maker. You want to have all decision makers present when you have that. Once you get a chance to sit down and make your big pitch, you want everybody is there at one time if you can.
So you made that deal, and did that inspire you to write the book, or what put you into the mind to write the book?
Well, I actually kind of toyed around with the idea of a book for a long time, and I was like, man, like as I started getting more into years with sales, I was like, man, I think I got a lot to share. Like I've been doing this a while in different, vastly different areas of sales. So I was like, man, I probably could write something. But then when it really kind of started taking off and coming to play was during this COVID-19. Like, we were out, like we had that time where when my store closed down, I was completely working from home. Like I had a lot of time in between because I wasn't in customers' face all the time, and there's only so many calls and emails you can make. So I was like, man, I started just kind of jotting stuff down, and just that kind of doodling and jotting down turned into a full out outline. And then I was like, man, I got 9-10 chapters here. I was like, okay, well, let me start adding something to it, and then it just kept blossoming from there. Now, the hardest part was the name, because I feel like I've been in sales for so long, talking about it ain't that hard. It's just when you want to try and put a title with it and do all that stuff and something that you think people will be interested in, that's when it kind of start getting more difficult.
Because I definitely want to get to the greens. I appreciate the title.
Right. I ain't talking about no collard greens either.
I definitely want to get to the green. And so how long, so you wrote down the outline, the chapters, right? But if you talk to any author, at some point, writer's block is going to kick in, right? You got 12 years experience and all of a sudden you ain't got nothing to say about one of your chapters after a few paragraphs. Like how did you overcome that? And I think that's important to any of the Sell or Fail listeners who are interested in writing a book.
Man, one of the biggest things, now hold on, let me back up first before I go into that. Yes, you definitely, writer's block is real. Like you think you have all these ideas, and then once you start typing up stuff and writing down things, you're like, man, what comes after this? So what's good for that? Now, how do I follow up on that? So yes, it's definitely real, but the biggest thing you can do is just remember, I mean, this is just sales in general too. Remember why you started. Like if you can always remember your why and what you're doing it for or who you're doing it for, like that's gonna drive you. Like you gotta have an inner voice that keeps you going and just drives you to do whatever you set your goal to be in the beginning. Like I've always I took a class once, the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and one of them was begin with the end in mind.
Yeah,
right.
That's something that's one of the main ones that stuck with me that I always kind of remember. Like whenever I start something, man, why did I start doing this? Okay, yeah, it kind of snap you back into your work mode.
Mm-hmm. And that's one thing I was sharing with William this morning, our routine in the gym. And I was saying when I was younger, I started bootlegging CDs and selling Gucci. But I always had this mindset, if I only made $200 a day. So I was 18, 19 years old, just making $200 a day. And then that $200 a day, I ended up paying for college out of my pocket. You know, most people, got college loans. So I hustled up and paid out of college, but it was that why all the time. Like, why am I doing this? Well, I need to make this 200 so I won't have student loan. I need to make this 200 so I can leave out my mom's house, and end up it hit it. So having a goal, having a why, having a plan, a man without a plan plans to fail, and keep moving forward. So that you are on the right path, Mr. Greene.
Yeah, I think so too. And I was just money motivated, right? Like I grew up poor and I didn't have a backup plan. Like you started in car sales. I started in insurance sales, 2 high turnover, 100% commission industries. And when you don't have a choice but to succeed, you're going to make it happen. Because I couldn't call my parents. I couldn't call friends. I couldn't call my grandparents. You had to make it happen. And so I took insurance sales and flipped that into telecom sales and flipped that into distributor sales. And distributor sales, I went to AT&T, and now I'm a commercial banker responsible for loans between 25 million and 250 million.
You got to keep selling.
You're a serious salesman too. I see.
I mean, like I said in the very, very, very first episode, I'm my biggest product. I know how to learn. Right? You can't put any industry in front of me that I can't learn in a few months and then get really good at it in a few years. Right? Because people buy from individuals and they hardly ever, I mean, sure, they want a product, but they buy from individuals. And I feel like, and people feel like I'm a likable guy. And so you can close the deal.
You can close.
Yeah, you said something that I got in the book, that you're always selling something. Like your biggest thing, you are your own product. You got to sell yourself. Every day is an interview.
Well, since you mentioned that, what are some of the other chapters in the book, and what should we get from it once we finish well, let's start with, what are some of the other chapters in the book, as well as your best product?
Oh, my best product. I'm gonna go back to what you just said. My best product is me, first of all. One thing I've always said, because even in car sales, I worked at a GM. I worked at a Cadillac and Chevrolet dealership, but you can go to a GM and get the same thing. It looks exactly the same, but you're not gonna buy it from Justin Greene. I worked at Verizon. You can go get an iPhone or Samsung from anywhere, but AT&T got them also. But Justin Greene don't work there, so I'm my biggest product. Like, you're not gonna get the same service and the class and caliber that I'm gonna provide from somebody else. So that's one of the biggest things. But as far as chapters in the book, man, I'm gonna give you my two favorite ones. One is gonna be chapter 3, Be the Wolf. You part gorilla, part octopus, but okay.
Yeah, man. I can get you in a sea or in a land. I'm the bad man.
You ain't playing with them. With the
hold on. Okay, in there, because I think that was a good transition for us to go to the final segment. And so look, what we're gonna do is we're gonna talk about your two favorite chapters in the book, right? What we should for sure read and get out of it. But then we're gonna talk about some of the books and mentors that kind of motivated you to get to where you are, and then talk about what's next. You're listening to Sell or Fail,
and if you ain't selling, you failing.
And we'll be right back after the break.
Let's get this money.
Kudzukian.
So we're talking about actual harm against actual people.
Different episodes, you come up with a more surprising thing.
You just taking baby steps, talking about escapism and like, yo, I'm mad, but I'm tired.
Hello. It is a privilege and an honor to join you for this special ceremony.
I can't tell you how privileged and pleased I am to be a part of the most critical conversation of 2020.
Sickle cell disease from birth to childhood up. So thank you for joining us.
Kudzukian. Check out all your Kudzukian favorites now. Download the Kudzukian app, available on Android and iOS.
Welcome back to Sell or Fail. We're still here with my man Justin Greene, author of Get to the Green Sales. I was about to lay a bunch of money out on the table just for effect since we talk about getting to the green.
Let's get it.
But to start with your book, what are your two favorite chapters in it?
Okay. Well, the first one is going to be chapter 3, Be the Wolf. Man, one thing. That. Hey, to me, the wolf is by far the smartest, like most strategic animal in the wild. Like I've done my research. I've looked at so much stuff. Like I love how the wolf works because if you ever seen the movie Bait, what first made me interested in the wolf, first of all, was I watched the movie Bait, and they said a wolf would rather starve than make a mistake. Now, like when I heard that, I was like, man, that's crazy. Like you see wolves in packs, like how would they rather starve than make a mistake? But I was like, okay, let me just look into it. But like wolves, like if you look at how they travel in a weird way. They have a leader in the back, and then they have a somewhat like a leader in the front. So instead of having, most times you think that the leader leads from the front. So just little things like that, and how they attack their prey, and kind of just things like that relates to sales, because you got to kind of strategize each day on how you want to, like how you said you want to make $200 a day. Mm-hmm. You had to have a way in mind. Okay, look, if I don't talk to X amount of people, I'm not gonna hit this $200. I ain't gonna make this money to pay for school. So it's all strategic. Like as simplistic as sales is or can be, it's a lot of strategy involved in it too, and it's really a thinking man's game at the end of it.
Right, and that's why I call myself the octopus, because when you look at it, for real though, an octopus can fit any hole its beak can go through. So metaphorically, if I can talk, I can get into any position. So my mouth gets me into any position that I need to be in, just like the octopus. So long as they beak can fit through it, they can escape from anything. And then when you Google it, it's the #1 animal to escape from captivity. Always. They always escaping from captivity. So they know how to adjust to any situation.
Well, look, since your spirit animal is the wolf, yours is the octopus, mine is the ram. I'm just gonna keep going at it until I make it happen. Shout out to my man Tony Baker with the cram videos, because that's like cram. Just keep going until you make the sale.
Right.
Hey, that works too. Hey, fun fact, Sam. You said whatever an octopus can get his head into can go through
his mouth.
Another animal that's the same way. That's probably a horrible comparison, but they have actually the same. Is a mouse. If a mouse can get his head through something, the rest of his body gonna fit.
Oh well, hey.
Random fun fact, but yeah.
So be the wolf, and then what's the other chapter?
I got you. The other chapter is, I'm gonna say chapter 5, play the numbers, because like in sales,
like the lottery.
No. Well, hey, I would love to hit the lottery, but I don't play the lottery, so it's gonna be hard for me to win. But when I say play the numbers, sales is a numbers game. The more people you talk to, the more sales you're gonna get.
10, 3, 1.
Yeah, and I got a part of that chapter is the law of averages. Like whenever you start doing something, unconsciously you're gonna have a ratio going with it, and the more you talk to, that ratio is gonna usually stays the same, or it doesn't change within a couple percents of each other. So if you talk to 100 people every day, and you generally close about five people a day, no matter how many hundreds of people you close, your ratio is still gonna stay around that 5%. It may fluctuate down to 4 or up to 6, but it's not going to vary too much. It's going to average out to 5. So whenever you get your ratio going and constantly talking to people, it's just all numbers. That's what it all boils back down to.
And that's very important. Seller fail audience, y'all need to hear that, because I know a lot of salesmen get discouraged because they thinking I'm talking to 1 million people, but I'm only getting this many returns. So it's that 5%, 1%, 10% is what really you're going to get. You just got to keep, talking to as many people as you can. Their percentage still going to be 5, but it's 5% of 1 million versus 5% of 100. So that's a very important chapter. But let me know this: how are you selling the book? Not what platform, but what is your selling strategy to sell the book?
Now you did bring up strategy.
Okay. I give it to you. So, of course, I'm doing word of mouth. That's the oldest way of marketing in the book. I'm also using, of course, the internet, social media. That's one of my biggest platforms. I just invest. I have a certain amount of money each month that I invest into social media marketing. I do my own marketing, and then I'm actually doing a book signing as well, like an official book signing, to where it'll be available as well, along with, like you said, the Amazons and all that. But
when is your book signing?
It's coming up on October 3rd, actually.
Oh, okay.
It'll be here local in Memphis.
Okay, where at? Shout it out, man, so we can show you some support.
It's great. I actually just got everything finalized with it. Like I said, it's gonna be October 3rd. It's gonna be at Shooting Substance on Airways. I can get that exact address right now. 3003 Airways Boulevard, Suite 1010.
Okay.
From 1 to 4.
All right. And again, what's the title of the book, and what's kind of the main theme that we should get out of it? And give us a little motivation as we close out. No pressure.
All right. So the name of the book is Get to the Green Sales. One of the things that I really want people to get out of the book is that although it's mainly focused around sales, a lot of the topics that I touch on in the book can be related to just everyday life. It's not solely just cut and dry. Look, this is how you sell. And then I kind of opened it up to where I don't show you all just the glamour of sales. You get a little bit of the what's not so good about it, and some of the heartaches and the pains with it as well. So you get a lot of it out of that book. It's because every other sales book is gonna tell you all the highlights. I want to give you the lowlights with it as well.
Okay. Well, man, I thank you so much for coming on. And before we leave, give us 2 books you recommend besides your books, but give us 2 more books that you recommend for our audience, because we're trying to make sure that they shopping in their stores every day.
Okay. One of my favorite books that I just recently read, and I can see me reading it again real soon, is The Power of Habit.
Okay.
I can't think of the author right here off the top of my head, but one of the biggest takeaways from it, with it, as far as a habit, you have a cue, routine, and then a reward. So you have to have something that cues you to remind you of what you need to do, a routine to do it, and then a reward on the back end.
Reward is the key. Reward is the key. I had to learn that later on. I was working so much, I wasn't rewarding myself. So now when I set a goal, I hit that sales goal, I got to reward myself. I like to go buy suits, so I go buy me a suit.
And I like a nice steak. So
if you make sure you buy your suits from Brooks Brothers in Germantown, Glenn Greene Sr. But
I'll make sure I go there.
The other book is going to be The 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene.
Oh yeah,
That's one of my favorite books also. I think I own every book he's written. Like,
Wow.
That's one of my favorite authors.
You got the 50th Law. Didn't he do one with 50 Cent?
I hadn't read the 50th Law yet. No, I don't think 50 Cent has a book. It's called 50. It sounds like the same, but I don't think that's his book. No, Robert Greene got one, the 50th Law also.
Oh,
and then he got the 33 Strategies
and figure out what
Award.
the name of his book is.
Yeah, we'll holler at 50.
Yeah, get him on there too.
Yeah.
well, look, we're about to close out, and I'll say one of the things I appreciate is there's a lot of sales books out here, right? And so you got PhDs, people who've never done sales and they've done research. You got people in all kind of industries that some of us will never work in, and then we got Get to the Green Sales, which a lot of us are going to work at AT&T. A lot of us are going to sell cars. A lot of us are going to do customer service management, and we just want to know that our experience isn't that different from somebody else, right? There are ups, there are downs, but at the end of the day, you can get to the green.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes,
listen,
sir.
Justin, we appreciate you for coming on Sell or Fail.
Y'all for having me.
Man, thanks again for coming out. Sell or Fail audience, I hope you learned something. You got to get to the green. You got to set your goals. You got to work your numbers. You got to stay humble because God go bless you. But you got to do your part and he'll do his part. Let's get this money. If you ain't selling,
you failing.
let's get this money.
And we'll see you next episode.